All right, so first up we have Mr. Jared Wiggins, who doesn't really need introduction. You know, he's definitely a top 25 driver. He's, you know, fresh back here from DNC. Welcome back to Texas.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah. So, you know, DNC was just this past weekend. You know, would you let our viewers kind of know your overall experience with DNC and your results and how you feel about them?
Yeah. So. DNC is always one of the hardest races of the year, especially now that we have more European presence. It was kind of like that before COVID, and then we had a year or two where it was a little bit lighter. But now it's awesome to see all those guys back and having some dudes to race with there. And yeah, it went pretty well. You know, with how close all the qualifying was. You know, I think my first round of buggy, I went 4th, and I think I was only a second and a half ahead of 15th. So just with how tight the competition is, you can always, you gotta have a little bit of luck and you gotta stay focused to do well. And I was happy to be in the buggy final. It's always a goal to at least be there and then work on racing it out. But I made that goal. I didn't have the best final. I had a little bit of a problem, technical issue with my car during it. That was on me. But yeah, I mean, it's just tough out there, and to be able to be up there and race it out, I always enjoy it, and give it our best.
Nice. So there's been like this kind of stigma where like Americans are saying that European drivers can't really handle real dirt racing in the U.S. Like, what are your thoughts about that? About Boots taking first, and
David second.
Yeah, David second, and Juan Carlos could have possibly been in the top 5. Like, what are your thoughts about them coming over to the U.S. and kind of dominating at the DNC?
Yeah, I think that racing a little bit in Europe and then mainly in the U.S. There's just a lot of good drivers everywhere, and it really just depends on how prepared you are. And all those guys did their homework. They spent the time running some in the U.S. and they were ready. So, I mean, really, like when we go over there, we can do well. As you've seen, like at the Worlds, I think Dakota was in the top 2, challenging. He was close to the lead before he flamed out at the Worlds in Spain. So these guys, we can all kind of mix it up wherever we go. It's just, how the weekend goes. And I know Elliott, he's won Silver State a few years back, and he's done a really good performance. And David's won DNC as well. So, I can totally see it. There's certain drivers, I think, that favor U.S. style tracks a little more than other drivers in Europe. Those guys being some of them. But, I mean, everyone out there is really quick as well as the U.S. guys, so it's no surprise, really. All these guys are good, so it just depends on who's got the best stuff for that weekend.
Right on. So listening to Keenan's podcast, he was saying that there should be more American drivers this year maybe traveling over to Europe and doing some of the races over there, specifically Buggyland, because it's really accessible. Yep. Do you see a lot of American drivers doing a lot more traveling this year over to Europe?
I think a little bit, but it's just tough. I mean, we always want to race there. Like any chance I get to go over there, I'll take it. It's enjoyable. It's just totally different. And one thing that's been mentioned in the past, like Montpellier is a tough race for Americans to go to because of a permanent track. But that's one thing about Buggyland that's cool. It's always a fresh track. It's similar like to the U.S. where everyone's on the same playing field. And really, like a lot of people assume that's the big issue, but the other issue is like the market in the U.S. for RC is much larger. Like if you go to P&B and you see all these guys, I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of just customers there. And a lot of the races in Europe, they're big. They have all these dudes there, but the market's not as big in Europe as it is in the U.S. So it's hard for a lot of companies to justify sending all of our pros there when they make more money in sales and representation and potentially in the U.S. So a lot of it is just the economics behind it. Not so much, I think, the drivers not wanting to go. Like, I mean, personally, I always enjoy going, and I'd like to make a trip over there, especially since running for Nova. They've been wanting me to come to a race in Italy, so I plan to do that. But a lot of the issue is really just like making it justifiable to the manufacturers, and I think that they're working on doing that, but it's just a process. I mean, we also just have 2 or 3 races a month sometimes in the US that we're all at, so it makes it hard to like pencil in time and do that. So it's definitely something we need to be better about because they're coming here, and I think that's great to be able to race all those dudes on a more regular basis.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you're always full of great insight when it comes to like RC racing, and you're always really approachable. I remember last year or so, when we were at Shaw's, I approached you and we were talking about Worlds and stuff, and I think we spent like 40 minutes just chatting it up about Worlds and stuff. So we definitely appreciate you and all your insight, in the industry. But before I let you go, got a couple questions. Do you have any tips for a new racer who's looking to get started into racing?
Yeah, I mean, a good one for especially like this track this weekend is just slow as fast. That's the biggest thing, is like just going out there and just trying to drive clean, stay on your lines, not overdo it. Especially like racing in Indy, a smaller indoor track, like just being smooth is the fastest thing to go around. So I think starting there and just like not getting ahead of yourself and over driving, and then also just asking the experienced racers at your track. Like you see somebody, that's one of the fast guys, it's always good to come and check in, and if you have a question, don't be afraid to ask, because we're all out here to help, and there's always somebody at any track that can help. And I had that problem when I started racing, where I never asked a lot of questions, and I did it myself, and you go through a lot of like, man, I'm really struggling with this, and it's such a simple thing sometimes that people can help you with. So
yeah, like I mentioned, Jared, he's a prime example of a pro driver who is really easy to approach and give you tips and advices. So if you see him around the track, please don't hesitate to approach any of the pro drivers. They're really ambassadors in the hobby to kind of teach you, on things that you can do to improve your driving. Yeah. So again, I appreciate Jared. Is there anything you want to say?
Mark. Not really. I mean, just thanks to all those companies that support me and let me come out and do some races and hang out with all you guys. So
awesome. Perfect. I appreciate you for the interview.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
Good luck.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, man.